poster boy of Indian aviation, Indigo has posted record profits last fiscal, making FY15 its 7th profitable year in a row. The fourfold increase in net profits to 1,304 crore rupees comes on the back of news that Indigo has just placed the largest ever order for Airbus, the 250 Neo aircraft, when deliveries of a previous order of 180 aircraft have not even begun. The airline is soon expected to hit the market with an IPO, where it may be looking to raise up to 2,500 crore rupees, and with the latest aircraft order, it is placing some mega bets on the Indian passenger aviation market.
So Aditya, we've known each other for some time, and it's really long since we met over a drink and a meal. Very nice to sort of meet you so informally.
Thank you. I'm having such hectic days that this is a great relief. Thank you.
I can imagine you're having very hectic days. The airline has just declared a fourfold increase in profit for fiscal 15. I mean, that's not something that's frequently heard in the airline business anywhere in the world, and certainly not in India. So, what really led to that particular feat, and how does it feel?
I guess the feeling of it has now subsided, because naturally we knew back in March how things were going.
Right.
But you know what it has translated to is a reaffirmation of the fact that this country, the way the larger demographic is, the fundamentals are, and you and I have often talked about it. This country has a fundamental premise that it's a very large population, very few airplanes, lot of demand, very little supply. So it seems like that right sweet spot that you need for a business.
Yeah, but a fourfold increase is unprecedented, if I may say so.
Yeah,
so,
and for us also, for sure, this has been the most profitable year. Driven by the fact that costs came down because of fuel prices. We were able to bring in more capacity and increase our presence in India. Yields went up marginally.
Right.
So it's a combination of more passenger numbers, lower costs, higher revenue.
So you had more pricing power in the last fiscal, is it?
Well, Sindhu, what happens with us is that because we are always so focused on consistent profitability and cash flow,
right,
our yield management is always kind of follows that goal. So instead of trying some new gimmick every once in a while, for us it is very straightforward, very simple, that you book well in advance, you get a great fare.
So did you do a little jig when you realized that there's going to be a fourfold increase in profit, or close to 25% increase in top line? I mean, spectacular numbers by any standard. I mean,
so
was there a little celebration in the office?
Actually, I'll tell you something. This is a very kind of Indigo thing. That a lot of times when something goes phenomenally well, or we kind of outdo our targets and things like that, the first instinct, and this is a very Indigo thing, it's in our kind of blood. The first thing is to kind of calm down a little bit more, because you shouldn't get carried away with what it is.
So you sort of reach a yogic state of mind where
I think everybody raps each other on the knuckles if we start getting too excited about anything.
Okay.
So it's just something which is
it sort of sets a benchmark for the future. I mean, is the future going to also look like this? I mean, it's multiple times profit despite the market.
This is the airline business. Very, very difficult to kind of say how predict with certainty how markets will move and things like that. But as long as there is that opportunity existing in India, as long as there is, for the foreseeable future, very little supply and a lot of demand growing, as long as we pick the right business model, which basically means that we stick to being a low-cost carrier, not move away, not waver, not start trying out something funny, and we're able to consistently bring our cost structure down, then what happens is that through all the ups and downs, there will be years where you'll make more money, there will be years where you'll make less money,
yeah, absolutely.
But you'll be consistently profitable, you will be growing, and it generates cash.
So Indigo seems to be fanatical about costs. What is this fanatical approach to costs? I mean, we've all seen Indigo deployed ramps on the aircraft, probably the only airline in the world which does this.
We don't have receptionists either.
Yeah, so and there was this talk of there is an Indigo standard time. There is a certain concept of Indigo.
Yeah.
Tell us, what does this mean to you and how did this come about? I mean, in the evolution of the airline, how did these phrases come around and what did you rate? What all is done at Indigo that probably no other airline does in the world?
You know, there are a lot of things that we do which are kind of straight copybook style. It's almost
whose idea was the ramps?
Oh, well, the ramps was actually the idea of Sanjeev, who's our current EVP of customer services.
Okay. How much time does it save? I mean,
it's you know, it obviously is a big convenience, because you can imagine if you're carrying trolley bags and instead of carrying them up the staircase, or for that matter a wheelchair passenger going up, you know, instead of somebody kind of, you know, two people trying to carry a wheelchair up a staircase,
it's far easier.
Yeah, it's far easier and it's far quicker. So it's definitely a convenience. As far as our cost thing is concerned, you know, in the airline business, whoever has the lowest cost of production always wins.
So there's no leeway in the fare bit. There is leeway only in the cost.
Yes. So we are very obsessed with making sure that over a period of time our cost structure keeps coming down. As I said, we don't have receptionists at Indigo because our security guards do a very, very fine job. So
receptionists meaning not at the corporate office?
No, nobody. No, there are just no receptionists at Indigo at all. So I'm just giving you that as an example.
Very interesting.
Right? And
I remember you insisting on WhatsApping me. I mean, I know very few CEOs or presidents who even think of a WhatsApp.
Usually that's because
it's
quicker, cheaper, right?
Certainly cheaper, yeah.
On the big structural stuff, you know, we ordered our first 100 airplanes back in 2005.
Which was itself audacious. I mean,
yeah, it was a big order. It was the largest aircraft order of that time.
What made the airline? At that time, you were not the president.
No. I was the general counsel. I was the legal guy doing the agreements and the contracts.
So what really, at that time also, it seemed like a very big dream, a very impossible dream to dream. So what really was the thinking behind that order in the first instance?
So we could see that a country of 1 billion people, in those days, I think it was give or take about 110, 120 odd airplanes in the country.
Right.
Right. And in those days itself, a single airline like a Ryanair or an EasyJet or Southwest or any one of them, let alone the big international carriers, had many more multiples of airplanes, right? So we could see that there's this opportunity. Having said that, it's not like we took the 100 planes and started bringing them into 1 year. We took that and stretched it over a period of time, so that both the internal and the external infrastructure could find a way to catch up with that growth.
But the order was placed at
But the order was placed.
So you got
because
benefits.
we knew, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So that gave that economies of scale, right? Not just that. Then we repeated that in 180 aircraft order, repeated that in the 250
aircraft
in 2011.
And you've just sort of surprised everyone again with the 250
aircraft
new
order.
Yeah.
Premised that, look, this market is growing and this needs capacity. Big aircraft orders so that it can get you economies of scale. But along with those aircraft, what we do is we're also buying a bunch of engines, we're buying seats, and we're buying landing gears, and so on and so forth. So when that happens, you're getting scale on all of those different elements of the aircraft. After that, what we do is that we enter into maintenance contracts over long periods of time, right?
So each of it gives you a cost
advantage.
Each
of us gives. Now, but for that, you have to be profitable, because every time you fly, you have to set aside a little bit of money for the maintenance. If you're not profitable, if you're wondering whether you're going to pay next month's salary or not, or debtors are on your doors, then you can't do any of this fancy stuff.
But I'm sure other low-cost airlines in India or everywhere else would also do the same thing. So how is it that you guys have this magical ability to rustle up profits and growth where others are floundering?
So I'll give you a slightly long answer to that. First of all, we know that a low-cost carrier wins against a full-service carrier, right? Because the cost of production is so much lower. It doesn't have the complexities. You don't have multiple types of aircraft, multiple types of inventory, and so on and so forth. Number two is that but that's not enough, right? You have to win against other low-cost carriers. Now, the win against other low-cost carriers is when you have the ability to order large number of airplanes.
So right? That's a winning factor.
That's one, right? So you have to have the profitability, the balance sheet to be able to do that. Number two, we have a very unique short-term lease strategy where we take our planes out after 6 years of them being in our fleet.
Right.
Now, I give the example of a car, for example, right? So the average age of the fleet is only 3.26 years, right? Less than 3.5 years old.
Okay.
So now what happens is, we may be a 9-year-old airline, but our average fleet age is only less than 3.5 years old. Right?
Because you keep replacing planes.
Keep replacing planes.
All right.
Number two, that we enter into maintenance contracts for a long period of time. So it gets covered either under those maintenance contracts or it gets covered under some warranties. Right? Number three, because we are setting this money aside, somebody else is now taking care of the maintenance of that stuff. So there is no sudden root shock as to what will happen if something breaks on this part.
So hold that thought while we get into a small commercial break, and we'll come back and figure out what is the magic that Indigo weaves.